guys, welcome to another episode of Dominion Today. Today is a very special episode, and if you have some friends, don't call them. Just watch it with yourself, because we're going to get very real, very transparent. If you guys have watched us for any time period, you'll know that we kind of wear our heart on our sleeve, and so we're going to take this opportunity. We've been talking about foster parenting, and so we're going to take this opportunity to interview each other. For this episode, Blanca is going to interview me and ask me some questions about foster parenting. These questions were not rehearsed. These questions were not disclosed. So you'll get the full surprised look in my face when she asks a question. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
In love for the first time, when it's toxic, it's good, and then it's toxic, that's called dating violence. I found out that I was pregnant. I was homeless, and from chaos, that faint plus sign turned into a sign of hope for me. Maybe Unplanned is a book I wrote really for the 17-year-old me. Remember that life is not over. It's only going to be different than you imagined it.
Welcome back to Dominion Today, and we're going to do a little something different. We decided to do interview style, surprise questions. Who knows? Anything can happen.
Indeed.
Right? So the last episode we had been talking about our journey of foster parenting, and again, our disclaimer was we are not experts. We just started our journey. We have just a year under our belt, and so we really felt compelled to talk about it, to share some of our experiences, and we delved into what does God say about foster care, about orphan care, and so we delved in pretty good there. So this is the question. This almost kind of feels like game show style. What was your biggest fear going in to foster care?
My biggest fear going into foster care, before making a decision or after making a decision?
You pick.
Well, I'll give both. Before making the decision, my fear was probably letting go of the possibility of having a biological child with you. And letting go to the point to where, not saying that it'll never happen, but saying and acknowledging the fact that right now it's not going to. And this is where God is leading us at this time and stage in our lives. So now my biggest fear as far as when we became foster parents was probably, I think probably my biggest fear was actually being the new me.
Wow.
The new me after learning so much about foster parenting. The new me of lessons learned from the past, and not falling back to that in desperation or insecurity, and really acknowledging, really I guess allowing the grace of God that He has given me in my new me to be able to demonstrate it out. And missing it. That was probably my biggest fear.
Because all of this training that we took, in a sense, was like preparing new clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when these girls, because our first placement was 2 girls, ages 2 and 3, and so they're actually in our home, and now it's like we get to wear the clothes that we had been talking about preparing for all this time, and seeing how it fit and how we fit in it and how we felt in it. So, wow, that's really good. That's really good. What is your favorite memory of our first placement?
One of my favorite memories is when you got the balloons out. And I don't know how they're going to react to it. Not the balloons, but what I wanted to do with the balloons. Which was kind of grab them and just pounce on them with it, and kind of use them as a punching bag, but with the balloons. Don't write me letters, right? But with the balloons, just they're kind of jumping on their heads with the balloons.
And these girls loved being chased.
Oh, absolutely, they love playing chase.
Yeah.
And so they'd run around the house, run down the hall, and I'd go after them, and they, I chased after them and on their backs, as they're running across. That was probably my favorite memory of it.
And this is,
And of course, the other stuff was the video camera and the
oh my
security camera stuff that we
gosh.
have.
You gotta share that story. You gotta share that story.
One time, we have video cameras. We set up video cameras in the house to really help us, kind of see and not be on top of them all the time, but yet see what's going on amidst.
Risk management.
Yeah, just pretty much risk management. And so we had one in both bedrooms, respectively. And so I put the little one down for a nap, and me and the big one were in the living room. I don't know if we're watching TV or just reading a book or something. It was before we started to enforce nap time for her or quiet time for her as well. And so we're sitting there and doing what we're doing, and after some time, the little one wakes up with screams and crying because she needs darkness to go to sleep, but yet when she wakes up in darkness, she just flips out. And so that was the issue. I hear it, and so I'm sitting there with the big one, and I know the cameras are two-way, so I can talk, and so I'm with all sincerity of heart, my heart of compassion, I wanted to reach out and tell her, just calm down, relax, and not have me holler to her.
I'm coming.
Yeah. And so I grabbed the phone because actually that's what it was. I was on the floor playing with the big one on the floor. And so, not that I'm old, but or very old. I want to take my time getting up.
Yeah.
Just put it that way. And so I grabbed the phone and I look at the camera and I see her and she's at the door. And so I grabbed the phone, I hit the phone, and I said, "It's okay. I'll be right there, and I'll be right there. Everything's all right." A nice calm voice. And she wigged out. She flipped out. She was hollering at the top of her lungs like someone was in the room coming after her. And she said these words. She says, "Mr. Marc, I'm scared. Mr. Marc, I'm scared." And I'm like, oh my gosh, that totally backfired. That's crash and burn big time, man.
That's one of my favorite stories. What surprised you the most about our first experience?
The lack of genuine, not the lack of genuine, but the lack of the trauma that we heard so much about was not evident in these young girls. In foster training, they give you the full gambit. They let you have it as far as the level of trauma, and that the trauma has no prejudice of age. So you can have a 3-year-old that has been sexually abused by dad or stepdad. You can have an 8 or 9-year-old that pulls out a knife on you and wants to kill you because of trauma in their life. And so you hear all of that, and if you get past that, then you're a champ, quite frankly. But you hear all that, and these girls that came into our home had no evidence of that whatsoever, that level of trauma. And in fact, we said jokingly amongst us, the only issue that we had to deal with was lice. Not a small issue, because they were quite infested with lice in their hair. But all that being said, in comparison, I'd much rather deal with lice than a 3-year-old that has been sexually abused, and I have to watch how she sits on my lap, and how I hug her and demonstrate my love to her, and so that was probably the biggest surprise for me with our first experience.
What would you say that you learned about yourself
in that first experience, or as a whole?
Watching you as a father in this light, it was different, and it was really something beautiful. And so like all kinds of things, we don't know that we have it in us until an experience, God uses it to pull it out of us. We don't know how strong we are until we're faced with a situation where, of course it's God's strength, but we find a way to dig in deep and pull out something, or really rather God pulls out something out of us that maybe we didn't realize was there, or maybe we didn't realize it was there to that capacity. So what do you feel like, I guess, got pulled out of you that came to the surface for the benefit of these girls?
That I can make a peanut butter sandwich without vomiting.
You need to know how important this is. My husband is not allergic to peanut butter. There is a disdain, a disgust, peanut butter is repulsive to him. So the fact that he prepared a peanut butter sandwich for these girls
on a regular basis and got it on my hands, and I was like,
pretty miraculous. I'm really. Like there'd be times where because all of this is happening during COVID. So thankfully we had the experience that we got to be together. There was really a level of bonding that I don't know it would have happened another way. Like there was this accelerated bonding and safe place created because we were all able to be together. And I know that, I don't want to minimize what this season in history has done for so many families. I can only tell you what it was for our family, and it was a good season for our family. It just happened to be that way. And so, but a little bit toward the end, when things started opening up more and I started going to work, kind of on a limited schedule, I would come home and find out that my husband made lunch already, and that lunch was peanut butter and jelly. And these girls love some peanut butter and jelly.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed they do.
What did you...
I think probably what bothered me the most about that, I'm sorry, but
Go ahead.
probably what bothered me the most about it is not the fact of making it, it's the fact of cleaning it up. Because as you know, the little one had a bad habit of getting it all over her hands and then reaching around and putting her hand on the back of these chairs.
Yeah.
And so we'd look under, and there's peanut butter under the handle of the chair. So, most of us won't even notice it until you put your hand there to pull out the chair or something because you're cleaning and you feel the peanut butter in your hand. And so that was probably...
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then we'd get into we tried you try all different kinds of ways for your kids to do, make it less messy or whatever. And it pulled out creativity out of us for sure. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and continue our interview with Mr. Marc Garcia.
Tell the Father in your own words, I'm ready to leave big. The definition of prosperity is the condition of being successful or thriving.
All right, welcome back. We are talking about our personal experience, kind of doing interview style, and I get the privilege and the honor to interview my husband. There's a t-shirt that I've really come to love. I've seen it kind of circulating on the internet, and it says, it lists biological, foster, adoptive, mom. And so all of those titles are crossed out and just the word mom is left. And you alluded to something like that in the previous episode. I don't know how you felt, and I know that we were not their biological parents, and we didn't require them to call us mom or dad by any means. But I know for me, even as I talk about them today, I still say my girls. And even though when they first come into our home, it's like we know they're not our girls, but there's this affection and there's this attachment that happens kind of like when you're not looking, and we've learned a lot about attachment and about the importance of attachment. And, like we talked about in the previous episode, the common excuse that people say, or the fear that people express, is I would get too attached. And you talked about how God showed you about letting go, and the revelation that God gave you, just like we let our son go and we released him into adulthood. There came a time where we had to release these girls back to their biological family, their mom and their dad. And so can you talk to us a little bit about the day that we brought them back? Because we actually had this special request with the caseworker, and we said, can we be the ones? We're really big on boundaries, and so we, for our own protection and privacy, you know, there were certain limits that we had in place. But on the day that the girls were set to return home for good, we asked the caseworker and we got approved to take them full all the way back home and really release them from our arms into mom's arms, which was amazing. So can you talk to us a little bit about what that day was?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It was cathartic for us to kind of release them that way. And I don't know if I'd do that differently ever, if given the opportunity, of course. I think that's one of the biggest things for us. The ability to see firsthand the excitement of these young girls going back to mom, and to see the emotion well up in mom, to have those children come back. And also understanding behind the scenes that she did everything she needed to do for DSS to say, okay, you can now have your kids back. All right. That to me was, because of what we have shared and our purpose behind us is us restoring families. That to me helped me celebrate in the victory of the mom, because I was able to see it. I don't know if it would have been different if mom would have said, "Hey, get in the house," and that's it. I don't know if we'll ever have that experience. I hope not, because that would be a totally different experience for me. But the fact that mom was emotional, mom was embracing her kids like she hasn't seen them in years, and to see that emotional bond be forged all over again anew, but yet everybody has matured in the process. Not only us as parents, not only mom in her process, but also even these young girls. They've matured in the process because they now have an experience in their life that many others hopefully will never have to go through, which is being pulled out of their home and put somewhere else. And so when you look at that as the whole scope, going into dropping these young ones off back to mom, it allowed me personally to see it for what it was, which is restoration and reconciliation between the two, and having that, seeing that manifest in a way that I've never seen before, was probably even therapeutic for me in helping me, go through the grief and the process of letting go, because there is emotion behind it. We're not denying that emotion at all. There is emotion behind it. To the point, you shared that we stopped at Panera to get something to eat. We came back, commercial unpaid, but we came back home, and I don't know what time it was, maybe 1 o'clock or so, 2 o'clock. We sat in that sofa and we slept till like 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the only reason we woke up was for dinner.
Yeah.
We had dinner, and we're like, okay, we're cool, we'll put on a movie. No, after dinner, we were out. We were back out sleeping. So it was an emotional drain, that I can only liken to when we were pastoring, and we were invited to pastor somewhere. Most of the times when we're invited to pastor somewhere, when we're done preaching, the demand that has been put on us spiritually brings us to a level of exhaustion that you probably never experienced any other way. And so we'd come back from service, from preaching somewhere, and we'd crash out. I'd have to crash out for a little while and nap out. But this was probably a little more
To the 10th
weightier, so to
degree.
speak. Yes, the 10th degree, and not minimizing, the spiritual demand, but this is, 24/7 for close to 3 months. And so being able to understand that and bring that to a place of epic, if you will, for lack of a better phrase, for that family was amazing for me, and to see it up hand, close and personal, that level of restoration and reconciliation between a mom and her children, I've never seen, and I'll never forget.
Yeah. That actually gives me a good segue to my next question. And, you guys that have been watching us for any amount of time, you know that marriage is really important to us. It's one of the things that we talk about constantly. And, we would, at the end of the night, once we put these girls down for bed, we would just kind of sit on the couch and be like, catching our breath. We'd look at each other. How you doing? I'm all right. How you doing? Good job today. Good job, How, in your opinion, how do you think that this affected our marriage?
It affected our marriage in different ways. In one hand, it brought us to a higher level. In another hand, in all transparency, some other stuff dwindled, if you will. I'm going to share what I'm about to share and be very transparent with you guys, but also keep in mind that, we've lived 7 years as empty nesters before having these 2 young girls in our home. And so, walking around the house comfortably, with a robe on or something like that, and enjoying each other, enjoying our marriage as a husband and wife, that was hindered a little bit because now we have 2 little girls running around the home, and although they're asleep, we still have to, exercise decorum and exercise, some level of what's the word I'm looking for? Restraint, yeah. And so, that changed. However, on the other hand, I don't think we've ever communicated with each other at the level we've communicated with each other while they were here. It was more of, although as a first experience, it was more of, are you okay? Are you about to flip out type thing? But that was probably, in the 20 years of marriage, very seldomly spoken to each other, as it was in comparison to those 3 months. Not saying that she never asked me how I was or something like that. She did, but it wasn't as often as. And it was a genuine concern. It wasn't, wasn't the fact.
A constant checking in.
Yeah. To make sure that emotionally we're there, physically we're there, but also even at the point of spiritual, because of the pandemic, we were forced to have essentially church at home. And I'll be very candid with you guys. There were Sundays where they were here and we didn't have church at all. There was quite a few Sundays, quite honestly, that we didn't have any spiritual
Traditional,
instruction.
yeah. You know what church was for us sometimes? 2 songs, given those little girl streamers, and we would just get in the living room and dance around, and that was like, that was okay, it. God, hands up to you. And that's all we could do for that day.
Yeah, and so that those are the changes that occurred, in our marriage, so to speak. And so that having that ability to be able to communicate, and because
it was like and it was also like a constant research and exchange of information, because we were trying to figure out how to take care of lice, how to keep these girls in bed during the night, how to de-escalate, a tantrum. So it was like this constant, well, I tried this, this worked for me today. And
How do you even deal with the I miss mommy?
oh,
And not dishonor the memory of mom.
yeah,
Which oftentimes happens, unfortunately, in foster families, and maintain that level of integrity so that they can have that experience of restoration with mom, because we didn't spend 3 months talking bad about her mom. We didn't spend those 3 months talking about how their mom had failed them. Nothing at all like that. We made sure, and we were purposeful in letting them know that mom misses them, mom loves them, dad misses them, dad loves them. And so, yeah.
Can you take like the last 30 seconds of the show and just talk to men that are considering being part of the foster care system?
Don't do it because your wife is asking you to. Do it because truly you feel a call from God to do it. Do it because you acknowledge the fact that there are children out there needing a father. So one of the things that we didn't get to because of lack of time in the episode previous was that a father gives identity. And with that identity becomes the revelation of the destiny of that person. And so you as a man in the house have extreme weight upon your shoulders. But that weight comes with a level of responsibility. And even that level of responsibility comes with a level of honor because God is going to equip you to do it. You don't have to get equipping, so to speak, from anything else, anyone else. God is able fully to equip you to do this thing that we know as foster parenting. So I encourage you, again, don't do it because your wife is doing it. Do it because you know God is telling you to do it, and your agreement with your spouse, and together you're going to do this, and you're going to be the blessing that God has already ordained for you to be in our community, but to these children as well.
That's really good. We're so glad that you joined us today. That's all the time that we have. So we just bless you in the name of Jesus, and we want to remind you, like we always do, that God created you for dominion today.
I love you.